This is the third video in this series where I'm using a micro four thirds camera, the OM1 Mark II, for landscape and seascape photography whilst on a photographic trip to Snowdonia and Anglesey. In this video, which was the second morning of the trip, I get up early in the morning to visit Llyn Ogwen, and I'm rewarded with firstly a beautiful sunrise, followed by soft lighting and beautiful calm conditions. So this is the second morning of the week in Snowdonia, and I've got up early morning to come down to Llyn Ogwen, and conditions here have been really nice. Earlier on I had some really beautiful coloration in the sky as the sun was coming up, and the lake here is absolutely just like a mill pond. It's so flat and calm, there's no wind whatsoever. So that's allowed me to get some beautiful reflections of the sky. It's gone now, but earlier on that was just a mass of colour, and it looked fantastic when it was reflected in the water. Now what I've actually done here is use the 12 to 40mm lens. I've included some of these rocks that are on the edge of the lake there as foreground interest, so that it gives you something to lead into the picture. But really and truly the conditions are so calm this morning, it's unbelievable. Really, it is just like a mill pond. So very flat, calm waters. I certainly don't need to use a long exposure or anything like that to flatten the water out today. But it's beautiful the way the mountains and the clouds and everything is being reflected in the water. So what I've been doing is trying different compositions. I've been using foreground interest. I've been zooming in a little bit tighter to that area over there. I've been doing it in portrait format, I've been doing it in landscape format, and then when I get them back on the computer I can decide really what is the best sort of format. But conditions today have been ideal. So the exposure that I'm getting today, I'm using ISO 200. It's f8 and I'm getting 1/6 of a second. Now although it's just flat, calm, and I'm actually quite liking the fact that I'm getting the mountains, the trees, the clouds reflected in the water, what I'm actually going to do is put the polarizing filter on and just check to see that I can get perhaps a little bit more view through the water there of all the rocks. So I use the Case Revolution filters, and I found them to be very good indeed. So now I can see all that detail perfectly, and yeah, that looks nice. I'm just going to change the exposure slightly. The light's improved, so I can actually change the exposure. Now on f8 I'm getting 0.3 second. I've actually underexposed it slightly just to make sure that I'm getting some detail in the sky, although I am using the live GND filter just to sort of as a neutral density grad, just to hold a bit more detail in on the sky. What I actually might do is actually change the lenses. At the moment I'm using the 12 to 40mm at 12mm. I might actually put the 8 to 25 on, just so I can get these foreground rocks really prominent in the picture. So for this shot what I've done is I've changed the lens. I've put the 8 to 25mm, I've got it at 8mm, and I've got the tripod down very low, and what I'm using is this big strong boulder as foreground interest to actually lead into the picture. The beautiful colours that I had early on this morning as the sun came up have gone now. All I'm left with is a fairly sort of dull grey sort of conditions. Having said that, the fact that the clouds, the mountains, the trees and everything are reflected in the water still makes me think I'm going to get something very nice out of this. Maybe because there's not a lot of colour in the actual picture, It might actually be a monochrome. I might convert it to black and white. But when you're down here low like this using a wide angle lens, it's very important you focus carefully. So I've been using focus peaking and focusing on this foreground rock, but checking to see that I've actually got the hills in the background sharp as well. And peaking actually makes that very, very easily, because the areas that you've got in focus will be highlighted red in my case. But it does look quite a nice composition and might actually work quite well as a colour picture, but I'm starting to think maybe sort of monochrome. So it's important when you're like this that, again, you cover your options. Don't just do sort of in landscape format, turn it into portrait format. Now this is really where, to be honest, an L bracket would have been better, because I could just then turn it very, very quickly. Whether you've got it on the ball and soccer head, I've now got to move the tripod over to adjust the composition. And actually that looks very, very nice. I'm quite pleased with that. Again, I'm going to just check the focus very carefully. I want to make sure that I do get it sharp all the way through. Yeah, that looks very, very nice actually. I might just change it slightly, just bring that up a little bit more. And I can bring the sky up in post-production. Just burn that in and emphasize the sky, because it's just, there's nothing really special about it at the moment. The colour's all gone. But that one actually is giving me 0.3 second f8 at ISO 200. Now what I'm going to do is get the tripod down even lower. One advantage of this Benro tripod is that I can actually spread the legs out even more. Get the tripod down a little bit lower. The fact that I don't have to really get down low and look through the viewfinder, I can use this flip out screen on the side for the composition, makes life so much easier. Yeah, that looks okay. So here what I'm going to be doing is actually pointing the camera down the other end of the lake towards Llyn Ogwen, that sort of area. I've put the tripod away because with this water being so calm, I don't need a long exposure, and handheld at 200, sort of ISO 200, I'm getting a 15th of a second, 8th of a second. I can handhold that very, very easily. The big advantage of OM system cameras is that the image stabilizing is great. So what I'm going to do, take a few pictures handheld and just sort of use different foreground interest, different compositions, and I can work a lot quicker that way than actually if I put it on a tripod. So that's a 15th of a second f8 at ISO 200. So I'm also going to take that one in portrait format, and I'm using this big rocker's foreground interest. Now, just to balance the exposure up, what I'm actually going to do is use the live GND, just to try and emphasize there's not much cloud there, but certainly using the graduated in-camera filter will help to, and that's so easy to use, the GND filter. So when conditions are like this, it's important you try to make the most of them. And now I'm just going to be wandering around trying different compositions, all handheld with the 8 to 25mm lens. So looking back towards the position down the lake that I was photographing earlier, because I've moved, I've found there's 3 rocks that are actually a little bit way into the lake. Now, they do make a beautiful composition. So what I'm actually going to do is take that picture. I've got Wellington boots on, so that allows me to walk out into the lake a little bit there, providing I don't get out of my depth. But it'll actually make a very nice composition, so fingers crossed that will come out all right. So these are the 3 rocks that I want to use as foreground interest. Although I've got Wellington boots on, these rocks can be very slippery, so I've got to be very, very careful when I'm wading out there. So I'm taking pictures at different heights from this height and then getting down very, very low indeed. And I think the low viewpoint actually works a lot better. What I'm actually going to do is manually focus that one just to check that I have got it sharp. In the next video in this series, I go for an early morning shoot at the lakes near Capel Curig, where I get stunning light and fantastic reflections. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.